All right, what's up, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. We're going to keep these breakdowns going. We got a couple more to go for this card this weekend on the Terrence Crawford, Israel Madrimov on the card. All right, we got a few of out there. We got the Crawford breakdown done. We got the Andy Ruiz breakdown done. We got the Jared Anderson breakdown done. So we're going to get this going, and then we'll get on to the next right after. All right, so Dave Morrell, he's going to be facing off against Hot Rod Kalajdzic. Dave Morrell is going to be moving up to 175 in his first fight here, and he's going to be fighting for the, I believe, this vacant regular WBA title. Okay, this is not the super title. The super title will be on the line when Better BF and Bivol fight later this year. All right, they were supposed to fight earlier this year, but that was postponed. But this is a pretty interesting match. And if you follow me on Twitter, I have already reacted to this fight. And I'll get to that at the end of this video when I'm giving you my prediction and betting options. Okay. All right. So you got David Morrell. He's 26 years old. Sensation from Cuba. Stellar amateur. And right now he's 10-0 with 9 knockouts. Okay. No draws or anything. And he's been one of the guys that a lot of people, love at 168. He was the WBA regular champion. And he was kind of in position to fight with Canelo, but he was never mandated to fight Canelo. So he decided to move up to 175 instead. And now he's fighting for the WBA regular champ title at the new division. All right, but good wins, 9-2, no recognizable names. He beat Falcao, who was a top contender for some time. We all know about the Yaborsanuli fight, where he put Yaborsanuli in a coma. And I believe he's recovered from that coma, but he was in the coma for about a year, I believe. I know for a really, I don't know the exact amount of time, but the last time I checked, he's back to living a normal life, which is very, very good, right? But that was one of his best performances against one of the best opposition he's fought up to this point. Then you got the fight with Alontes Fox, who's been in there with a lot of fighters as well. These are not any real recognizable names like that. None of these names really stand out like that. But he's knocked out everybody except one opponent, which was Lennox Allen. All right, and that was one of his earliest fights. That was his third professional fight. So he came in hot. He came in hot as a pro. I just said this about Israel Madrimov. When you see these guys that come out and they already have some sort of a title within 10 or 11 fights, you gotta understand that they were a phenomenal amateur, and they're already getting, championship level fights. It's like Arthur Beterbiev, same thing with him. He was fighting former title holders back like when he only had 7 pro fights. So David Morrell is a really good fighter. He's from Cuba. He's 26 years old. They have him listed as 6'1" with a 78.5 reach. I don't know if that height is accurate. I think he is tall. He looks tall. But Kalajdzic is actually listed at 6'3", and I'll get right to him. Kalajdzic is guy's been around for a while. He's 33 years old now. He's 29 wins with 21 knockouts, only 2 losses, one by KO. I want to say that one of those losses is very, very disputable to Marcus Brown. I remember watching the fight back in 2016. I remember doing content on the fight. And at this, I want to say throughout my years of doing content, that was one of the biggest robberies that I ever did content on. Okay. And even though Marcus Brown is my dude, off camera, that's my guy. I don't believe that he won that fight, for different reasons in the fight. And that's my guy. But Kalajdzic, I think, did enough to win that fight. It was only a 10-round fight. I know there was some controversy with the knockdown and early in the fight and stuff, a lot of holding, but I mean, just the reaction throughout the boxing community. I think 99% of viewers think that Marcus Brown lost that fight. All right. But I know there's a lot of robberies. A lot of people scream robbery almost every other weekend. But I think as a community, I think the majority of viewers believe that Kalajdzic won that fight. But he also lost to Better BF. And I'm not mad at him for losing that fight, because Better BF to me is one of the top 5, top 6 fighters in the world. And he has been for some time now. So I'm not mad at him by losing one to one of the best fighters in the world. It is what it is. All right, but other than that, he's 6'3". He's listed at 6'3" with 76-inch reach advantage. So he's listed as being taller. I know he is. He looks tall in his fights, but he looks to have the reach disadvantage here in this fight. All right, but he's a career light heavy. All right, so he's been there. David Morrell is just now moving up, but Kalajdzic has been there his whole career. And Kalajdzic is what I would say is a boxer puncher, good power. All right. I don't think he's a KO artist, but he can punch, and he does stop the majority of his opponents. All right. He's actually coming off of stoppage win, or last round stoppage win against Sullivan Barrera, who's very aging at this point. 42 years old when they fought. Not much to really go by there, because Sullivan's been passive for some time now. Sullivan Barrera actually had a very, very short prime. He's one of those Cuban fighters as well that came in, went pro late, got straight to the top, but started taking some really, really tough fights, got some good wins, but got some losses in there too. But that is, outside of Marcus Brown, Arthur Better BF, Barrera, there's not many standout names in his resume, not any names that just shoot at you like that. But solid opponents, some with, flim-flam records and all that. But overall, Kalajdzic, I've seen him a number of times. I'm familiar with him. I've been watching him since the Marcus Brown fight. I remember doing a breakdown. I don't know if I did a breakdown. Maybe I didn't do a breakdown. I know I did a reaction video. But I believe I did a breakdown for that fight with Brown. And I've been watching him since around that time, and just keeping my eye on his career. And whenever I see his name pop up on the schedule, I normally tune in, because I kind of respected him since that fight with Marcus Brown. Now, Dave Morrell, the way I look at him, again, he's also a boxer puncher, southpaw. Very, very aggressive fighter, very high volume. I could say he can get into his technical bag, but I could also say he puts on a lot of pressure. He comes out fast. He fights as if he wants to knock you out quickly, And I think when he can't, I think he starts to slow down a little bit and then get into his chess playing type of boxing, where he's looking to time you, set up counters and stuff like that. But he comes out fast all the time. And I think in some sense, it is an advantage, because he is very powerful. All right. He's lightning fast. So he's very, very effective very early in the fight. But I think sometimes with his weaknesses, I would say that he kind of overcommits a little bit. Again, he fights like he wants to get the fight over with. He doesn't really box the best to the knockout. I don't think he's a guy that has shown us that he can be very patient. I think when he's being patient and the rounds are going longer, it's because of his opponents. It's just not as easy to knock out. But when he's fighting a guy that he's clearly outclasses, he's good at getting them out of there quickly. And that's why you see a lot of early knockouts on his resume. All right. But I think his weaknesses, when I watch his fights, I think because he's so aggressive and he likes to throw, extended combinations, you can definitely counter him in between the punches, in between the combinations. I think he overextends sometimes with the left hand too much. I think he throws the straight left, because he's a southpaw. So sometimes when he throws the straight left, his head is way over his lead foot, and it keeps him off balance, and it opens up counter punching opportunities. Also, sometimes when he's throwing his jab, I think he's a little too close, and then he drops his lead hand after he throws it. So it also leaves him with counter punching opportunities too. So if he's fighting a guy like Kalajdzic, who is an orthodox fighter, he got to be careful for the left, the left hand counter hook. So I've seen when he fought Henderson had his back on the ropes, and he was just doing the rope-a-dope. He's bouncing off the ropes, and he would just be fighting in the high guard, and he'll just do those high guard traps. As soon as Morrell hit him, Henderson would just counter real quick with a clean left hook, and in between the punches. It kind of reminds me of what Jamel Charlo was trying to do with Castaño in the first fight. Because, Jamel would play the ropes, and then Castaño's doing all those combinations, and Jamel would just try to catch him with the left hook, in between the punches. So I think that's another thing with Dave Morrell. I think, with the high amount of combination and just the lack of patience, just wanting to get the fight over with. I think with certain opponents, he can do that with when he's on a different level. But I think in this fight, I think he should be a little bit more cautious. Why? Because he's moving up to a new division. He's fighting a puncher, and he's fighting a guy that could counter pretty well. So Dave Morrell, very good fighter. A super huge favorite to win in this fight here. But I think Kalajdzic is kind of dangerous. Now, Kalajdzic is a guy that is very light on his feet, knows how to move and use the ring, very good boxer, knows how to counter very, very well. Good power, like I said, good hand speed, well-rounded fighter overall. I think he got good fundamentals. I think he has a good boxing brain. I think he can play the chess, and I think he normally plays that, being that he's going to be orthodox, and seeing his fight with like Marcus Brown, who was a southpaw as well, he's going to be fencing. He's going to be looking to connect with the straight right. He's going to be looking to catch you in a good counter punch situation. And I think the problem with Kalajdzic is I also believe that he overextends sometime as well. I think he leaves himself open for counters as well, because sometimes he just throws the right hand, lunges a little too far out, and it leaves him open for good counter punches. Even the older Sullivan Barrera was timing him with the overhand right. I mean, Kalajdzic was literally walking into that overhand right at times. And that's not in a good space you want to be when you find a guy like Dave Morrell, because he's so powerful. So with Kalajdzic, also, I think another weakness with him is I think his best punch, I think he has a great short right hand counter. He likes, especially since he's going to be fighting the southpaw, likes to lean back a little bit or roll, connect with the short right hand. And he also has a good pull counter. So if you're overextending with the straight left hand, like I see Marcus Brown do at times, he's gonna counter with a straight right. I think the problem is being that that's what he likes to look for. And I noticed that even in the Sullivan Barrera fight, he likes to look for that punch. But sometimes he puts too much stock in it, and he's not really worried about what's getting thrown back out. And I've seen it where he'll go and try to roll the punch and counter with the straight right, a short right hand, and he's not focused on the swivel jab that might be coming behind it, or the right hook that might be coming behind the straight left hand. So if Dave Morrell shoots a straight left and he's looking to counter it, he has to focus on the right hook that might be coming behind Dave Morrell's straight left, or, the swivel jab that might come behind it. And those are the things that, with Kalajdzic, sometimes he's too offensive heavy. I feel like both of these guys, different styles or different stances, but they kind of have the same flaws. I don't think Kalajdzic is heavy on the combination puncher like that. He's a lot more of a pot shotter than Dave Morrell is. But when it comes to defensive weaknesses, they kind of have the same flaws, but they just come around in different ways. All right, but look, as far as my pick, my actual prediction is I think Dave Morrell is going to win the fight. All right, I'm a little bit, I want to be easy with just, I think he's going to stop him, but I want to be a little bit easy on the stoppage, you know, because I don't think there's, I think Dave is such a favorite in this fight. It's not worth like putting money on him for you gamblers out there. I really don't think it's worth it because Dave is moving up to a new division. And I understand that Kalajdzic has been stopped, but he's been stopped by one of the best KO artists in the game. And better be if who I still think is above a David Morrell, at least, you know, at least for now. And I do think Morrell was going to win the fight. I do. But there's no reason, and this is probably the first bet that I placed for the weekend. There's no reason why Kalajdzic should be a plus 1,400. A plus 1,400 underdog. That's crazy. I immediately put money down, a little bit down on Kalajdzic to pull off the upset. Why? Because he's only lost, in my eyes, to one fighter and one of the best fighters in the world. He has more than a puncher's chance. He's the vet. He is the guy that's been a career light heavyweight. Dave Morrell is coming up, and even though Kalajdzic is old, Kalajdzic is the older fighter here, I still think he's still in his physical prime, you know? I don't think he's slowing down much again. He was very light on his feet against Sullivan Barrera recently and for the whole 10 rounds. So with that being said, I think if you're a gambler, I think you should put a little bit down on Kalajdzic to pull off the upset. Again, I think David's going to win, but I don't think he's that much of a favorite. I think maybe a 4-1, maybe a 5-1 favorite, but not like a 14-1 or whatever it is at this point. I don't know what it's at now. That much, that's a 14 or 15-1 favor, or 25. I think it might be even a 25-1 favorite. I don't know where it's at, but that's too much. That's too high, you know. So I think Dave Morrell is definitely gonna win the fight, but it doesn't hurt. We've seen crazier upsets in this, and I don't think there's that much of a gap in talent between the two. All right, so I do think Dave is better, and I think he does have a good chance of getting the stoppage. And Dave might be strong. You never know. Maybe his power carries up, you know, because he was kind of a big super middleweight. So maybe his power does carry up to 175, but maybe it doesn't, you know, maybe it doesn't. All right. Maybe he's better because he doesn't have to drain himself up at 175, but maybe he goes up and he's not as big of a puncher. We see that often in fights. So I just think if there's any money involved here, I think putting a little bit on Kalajdzic to win this fight. Again, I got over a plus 1,400 by putting a little bit on Kalajdzic to pull off the upset. That's a lot of money to get back, you know, on a fight against a puncher who's not outside of his physical prime, you know. So that's the way I look at it. Please subscribe to the channel. I will be back with the next. I think I do Rayo and Pitbull Cruz next. I think that's like one of the only fights I have left. So anyway, please subscribe to the channel again. Smash a thumbs up. Share the video if you like the content. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.